welcome everyone that's been here signed in or is just still signing in. So we're really excited to have Jen Jones on giving this presentation. So Jen's the assistant AD for women's basketball sports performance at Auburn University, and today she's going to be looking at how she's used Perch and the technology in general in her off-season training with her athletes, and how she's used the technology to kind of drive not just intent, but also education and providing a platform around that too. So, Jen, we're super excited to have you. I'll let you take it away from here.
Thanks, Cedric and Nika, first of all, for inviting me to do this. Um, I wanted to start out just kind of giving everybody a little bit of background about myself. So this is, I don't know, year 25, 26, something like that, that I've been a strength and conditioning coach solely training women's basketball. So I like to consider myself that I've got an expertise in that area, especially with that particular sport, even though I have trained some others. But, I've kind of narrowed down my focus to women's basketball. And my first, let's see, kind of introduction to VBT was when I was at Texas A&M. I dabbled with it a little bit, but the problem that we had there was, just having enough for the entire team to get through and to actually be able to track what we were collecting. It just made the workout really cumbersome, to be honest. So more so in the beginning, I was able to just train myself and see how it affected my own training. Um, and that's when I decided that this was something that I really needed to pursue and see how we could get this here and with other teams I was training. So fast forward, so I'm at Auburn University now, and this is boof, this is our year 4 with Coach Harris. So she took over as the head women's basketball coach 4 years ago. And at that time, we had a previous relationship from A&M, so I was, the easy choice for me to move from my Olympic sport role back to women's basketball. And at that time, when we met, obviously she was changing the culture. That's, first and foremost when a head coach takes over. She was, had to build a team, trying to bring in the top-notch recruits and take this program to the next level. So there's several things that we were missing, pieces of the puzzle that we were missing from a technology standpoint. So we started adding little pieces to the puzzle every year so that we could not only track what the kids were doing on a daily basis from a workload standpoint, but be able to track it longitudinal so that, we knew that they were, getting in shape. We knew that they were getting stronger. We knew that they were getting faster. We had data to back up everything. And so last January, I started working with Perch. We had one unit in the weight room, and I was lucky enough that the kids would come in. We do a class schedule rotation on lifting in season. So the in season was, I had, oh my gosh, almost everyone on the team was able to use that one unit because of how we were doing our groups during the in season. So I was able to collect a lot of data during the in season. This past off season was when we purchased enough units for the entire weight room, so that I could there wasn't a moment when somebody wasn't being able to utilize the perch. So just to now just fast forward again, at the end of the season, I sat down with our head coach and we talked about the season. We talked about the past year and what we really wanted to focus on. Year one, she told me, Jen, I need them in shape. I need them to be able to play basketball the way I want to play basketball. Defense is where she hangs her hat, and they run a lot. And so, she had to transform the culture of the team to an up pace tempo. So that was year one, was basically getting them in shape so that they could play basketball for her. Year two, we shifted the focus a little bit. She still, had a high focus on conditioning, but then we were starting to get true freshmen. We were getting some kids in the transfer portal. And so she shifted her focus a little bit, and it was just like, Jen, okay, now think we need to start emphasizing what's happening in the weight room. Um, and so it was funny that year two off season, I presented her with a crazy idea. I said, okay, if you want strength as a focus, I mean, let's do a 5-day split. And so they lifted 5 days a week that summer. And that would be a summer that I wish I had Perch. But and that was her focus. And so, anyways, kids did get strong. They loved it. I liked the layout of it. And so now, fast forward to this past spring when she presented me with, again, Jen, I want to have another focus. I want to continue to focus on the weight room. I want to use the weight room to build the culture. I want to use the weight room to put them in stressful situations, which is fun for me because I love being in the weight room. Not that conditioning is not important, but I really like the idea of my coach buying into that. So now we've got Perch. So our goals for the summer were, first, obviously, to increase strength. We had 8 weeks to do it. And when I spoke with coach about increasing strength, we broke it down into different avenues, because I said to her, I said, okay, what do you mean by increasing strength? Because as a strength coach, I'm going to pre and post test, and I'm going to show you, yes, we did get stronger. But I wanted to know what she thought strength meant. And I wanted to make sure that my program was what she wanted. And so we talked about performance variables. And so what we came to a consensus on is that, in her mind, and in my mind too, actually, after this conversation, increasing strength doesn't always mean increasing your 1 RM, or on a bench press or a back squat, or clean, or whatever your KPIs are for that team. For what I'm doing for women's basketball, it doesn't mean that. We like to look at performance strength and how I can improve that, how I can get them to jump higher, how I can get them to run faster, how I can get them to be more aggressive on their rebounding, all of those things. And so I was like, okay, so I have to increase performance strength. What am I going to do here? Um, so what I did is I focused on the accelerative zone and starting strength. And that's what we did for the 8 weeks. We had some progressive overload, and I was able to, again, because of the dashboard that Perch has, I'm able to see instantaneously what everybody's doing. And so I can see we had a few kids on the team, because of their training age. I'm skipping around a lot, guys, and I apologize. So please put your questions in there. Um, because of our training age, we've got young ladies who, when they come to Auburn's campus, a lot of times that's their first introduction to the weight room. Um, I'm finding that women's basketball, when they're in high school, the football players are lifting, the men's basketball players are lifting, but a lot of times the women aren't in the weight room, or if they are, it's not a it's just a little fluffy workout. Let's just put it that way. Okay. And so when they get to me, they haven't been taught how to squat properly. They haven't been taught how to do cleans. They haven't been taught anything. So I spend a lot of time teaching, and their fear factor is there. So they're not going to want to do a 1RM on a back squat. They're not going to do a 1RM on a bench, or at least not a true. They're going to give me one because I'm saying, hey, we're testing today. But is it really a true 1RM like you or I would do, because they don't have that experience in the weight room? They have, they've got some fear. So what I found was, because I was able to utilize the dashboard, I was adjusting weights on a daily basis. Because their 1RM wasn't actually their true 1RM. And so seeing that feedback and giving them a goal, okay, I need you to hit this speed for this many sets and this many reps. And I had kids that were blowing it out of the water because it was moderate weight. So every set, I'd be like, okay, let's put a little bit more on there. Let's put a little bit more on there. And on a weekly basis, I'm increasing their workload, and I'm increasing their total tonnage. So, but they're still hitting those times, and or not times, but speeds. And so that's when I really had the aha moment, that, in past history, when I'm talking with coaches about VBT, everyone's always saying it's not for the inexperienced athlete. You have to have a high level training age to implement VBT into your programming. But I'm saying no, not really. Because with this team, that's what I found. They were inexperienced lifters, but because they had immediate feedback on their set, they were learning how to lift with intent. They were learning how velocity translates to strength. They were learning that all of the lifts that whether it's a clean or a squat, or we did jumps, it all transfers to the core. And so this was the first summer that I actually felt really good about where we were as a team, because they understood what we were doing and why we were doing it. Um, and then the third thing, we created this competitive environment in the weight room that we've never had before. One day, I saw the leaderboard on the dashboard, and I was just like, I don't know if I'm really going to use it. It's great, but. And so one day on a whim, I had one of the interns said, hey, we're gonna use the counter movement jump on Perch today. Let's go ahead and throw it up on the cameras and see what happens. I mean, throw it up on the TVs and see what happens. And it was like a transformation in that team. Like every single one of them was pissed because they weren't first, or their legs were tired that day. They're like, coach, I got to do this again tomorrow. I know I can beat Marshawn, or I know I can beat Adia. And so every day they're like, coach, are we jumping today? I'm like, no, we're not jumping. So they would get upset. So then I started trying to figure out, okay, let's take on our dynamic day for squats, let's throw those up on the TV too, so that they can see where they fall. Because when we're doing our dynamic day, whether it was box squats or when we went through, we used chains at one point, their percentages were the same. So that leveled out the playing field. And again, it created this competitive environment that I had never had in the weight room before. So it was nice. They really bought in to the program. They loved being able to see what they were doing. I have one young lady who struggles with her depth. So being able to jump on that iPad after every set and look at, the bar path and what they're doing, what the bar's doing on each and every rep, really helped her out. So I know the title of this presentation was educating using technology, but honestly, the technology made it easy for me to educate because of the feedback that we were getting on each lift. Um, so this was an example of one of the days when we used the leaderboard. This was their counter movement jump. We tested this. Ooh, I want to say we did it because we also have force plates. So with the Perch camera, I used it a couple times a week, just to create that competitive environment. And I focused on their takeoff speed, their takeoff velocity. And so I used that to track their fatigue from week to week, from day to day, from session to session. I changed it up. Sometimes we would jump after we had a really hard practice. Sometimes we jumped after a day off. So I could see what their legs looked like fresh and what their legs looked like in a fatigue state. Um, because we only had 8 weeks in the summer, I didn't collect a whole lot of data with the jumps. So longitudinally, I can see a little bit of what they did, but it was more I used the force plates. We got one good test jump on the force plates once a week, because I've got years of data in there, so I can really look at how that velocity is changing over time. And again, we use this leaderboard in the weight room. I had my intern come up with a little PowerPoint presentation type thing that we put up in the locker room so that every day they knew their standings. We came up with a point scale so that they got points if they hit a certain speed. They got points for squats in the weight room. They got points for conditioning in the morning. And she would post that every morning in the locker room, so they all knew where they were standing, and the coaches knew. So it was nice that, nobody was hiding. Everybody was given 100%. Um, and I really think that leaderboard just helped push us over the edge with that um, aspect of it. So here's some of the results we had over the summer. So with pre and post testing, we tested Nordboard for hamstring tensile strength. We did a mid-thigh iso pull, and we used the force plates for that. And we did the same old that everybody does. We did a 1RM back squat. And then like I said, we used the counter movement jumps on a weekly, sometimes daily basis. Um, and so the increases for me, I thought that was a win for our team. Um, and part of the reason why I say it's a win for our team, because this was the first summer that we had 100% effort and kids were actually trying on test day, because they knew that it was helping them on the court. In the past, we've had some ladies on the team who, on day one test day would maybe give like 80%. And then when we test again, they're going to give me 100% so that they can see that, that huge increase. But because we made every lifting session a competition, whether it was a test day or not a test day, they were giving me 100%. So this is the first summer, like I said, that I feel that these testing results are true and valid to what we actually accomplished this summer. So we can talk a little bit about my plan, and how I went, my approach to putting the program together. Um, my I've always leaned a little bit on the West Side barbell approach, which is a conjugate periodization. So we'd have a max effort day and a dynamic day. Now, again, because of our training age, our max effort day isn't, a true max effort day like you would read in some of the conjugate articles. Um, it's max effort for them, but it wouldn't be max effort for me. I have to take into account that they've got practice that day. I have to take into account that they're on their feet all day because they're walking to class. So their max effort is a little bit lower load, but that dynamic day is still true. We're still working on starting strength. The max effort wasn't in the absolute strike zone. Like I said, we stayed in that accelerative zone. So on the max effort day in the first training block, we focused on eccentrics. So again, that would be a max effort load for them, but the percentage was lower because we were able to, stay in that eccentric or the accelerative zone, 0.75 and above. And so that really helped. And then from there, we progressed. When we got out of our eccentrics, we moved more similar to a density training cycle on that max effort day. So we were on the clock. We started at 70% of their 1RM with 5x5 on a minute and a half turnover. The density training, I believe the turnover time should have been a little bit more at 70%, but I wanted to use it to as a conditioning factor too, to keep that heart rate up. And so we started at 70% with 5x5 on a minute. I think we went like a minute 15 or a minute 20, I think, turnover when we were on 5x5. And then we periodized down to 80% at 8 sets of 3 on a minute turnover. And those were our max effort days. And then our dynamic days, we went from the first cycle, we were on box squats, and then we did a pause squat, and then we finished with chain squats, and we cycled from 40%, 45%, 50%, and then back to 40%, 45%, 50% when we started a new exercise. So those 3 weeks we did with the box squats, and then 3 weeks with the pause squats, and then actually it would have only been, and then 2 weeks with the chains because we only had 8 weeks in total. And then weekly I was evaluating what each athlete was doing on each lift. We were using like I mentioned, we were using the jump test, the Nord boards. We tested that 3 times throughout the summer. So I was able to make sure that we're progressively getting stronger there with our hamstring strength. The force decks, the jumps with the force decks, we did that once a week. And then the iso pulls, the mid-thigh iso pull, we did that 3 times over the course of the summer. So I was really able to collect a whole lot of data and make sure that we were progressing in the direction that we needed to progress, so that at the end of the summer, when I sent that report to coach, we in fact did what she was asking us to do. So in the training cycle, I have a couple snapshots up there of 2 kids on the team. One looks like was her hang clean, and the other looks like their back squat. So I didn't really adjust a whole lot on the fly in the day during the individual lift, unless I was seeing somebody was way over the speed zone that I was trying to hit. I was like, okay, that weight is way too light because you shouldn't, all 5 reps should be way over. We should, I understand 1 or 2 because, the first one's always crazy and then the last one fatigue sets in. So I understand that. But we were able to adjust in the lift if we had to increase a couple kilos to make sure they were actually doing what I needed them to do. And we had one young lady on the team who, when I say she's an inexperienced lifter, she is an inexperienced lifter. She's a sophomore. And when she came in last year, had never squatted before. She is 6'5", and so she has some knee issues, because of lack of quad strength. So she's got that patella tendonitis. So we spent an entire year trying to get rid of knee pain and trying to get that quad girth up and increase her strength in that quad. And so this past summer was the first summer that, she was squatting pain-free. And so we could really load her up. And so that was somebody who, being able to adjust in the moment instead of waiting until the next week, really benefited, because we would giggle every session. I would ask her, okay, first set down, we've got to increase your weight. And she would laugh and say, Coach Jim, but we increased it last week. And I said, I know, but you're still hitting your goals. So we're going to go up. And out of the 8 weeks, we probably increased her squat, 6 of them every session, because she was just, that kid that he was really, really raw and inexperienced in the room, and having that feedback helped her. And so now we've got a closer 1RM on her, so I don't have to adjust as much, but I'm still tracking on her, because she's still getting stronger. We had another young lady transfer in from another school. And when she came on her recruiting visit, she told me that she absolutely loves the weight room and that she loves to lift, and she loves to lift heavy. And those are the kind of kids you like. And so when she came in, they didn't have Perch at her previous institution. So again, we giggled because I told her, I said, you're a whole lot stronger than you think you are. And when we did her 1RM test at the end of the summer, she was so ecstatic, because that was not only, that was a career PR for her. It wasn't, just did a 1RM for the summer, but out of her whole career, that was the strongest 1RM that she's had. So she was pretty fired up about it, and, she's bought in. So the other thing that we use, like I said, we use this real-time information, but in the dashboard at the end of the lifts, I would go in and watch how their force velocity curve was either changing because we increased their load, which is nice that they have that built-in capability to do that, because I've always had to manually build, with a calculator, figure out what the force velocity curve was for each athlete. But being able to just get in there and look at it and see how it changes from day to day, week to week, and then longitudinally look to see, okay, here's where we need to be, and forecast what they're going to end up being at the end of the summer. So what did we accomplish this past summer? Again, I think that the ladies learned what it meant to train with intent. I've always told them when they come in to lift, hey, let's take this hour or 45 minutes and let's try to get better. Let's have an intention about every time you touch the bar or every time you pick up the dumbbells, have it in your head that you're going to get better than the day before or the set before or the week before. And so having this technology, they were able to, hey, coach, I did so much better this time than I did yesterday, or I did so much better this week than I did last week. And so they understood what I was talking about when I said, hey, we're going to train with intent today. I really want you to explode out of the hole. I want you to or I want you to pause and then explode out of the hole. They understood. And the team was excited about getting stronger. So if there's anything, this for me, that was for me, that was an accomplishment. What I'm excited about is they're excited now about coming into the weight room. A lot of times it's hard to get young ladies to come in. They'll come in because they have to, but are they just going through the motions? I'll meet with a recruit and they're nervous about the weight room because they don't want to build muscle. They don't want to lift like football players. And so I'm constantly teaching them, we're not lifting like football players. I'm not training you like a bodybuilder. I'm working on these KPIs, which are your performance goals, and that's what we're trying to improve. I'm trying to, offset some of your weaknesses to bring that up so that we can reduce injuries on the court. And all of this stuff I attribute to the data that I was able to collect since we started last January. We have 100% buy-in on our team. Because it's one thing to have somebody do something, but when they can see the results of what they did, then it makes another, I don't know what the word is, but another reason for them to come the next day. I was able to send that report to coach and say, hey, coach, we got stronger. We did what you asked. Let's take this team to the next level. And then I think the last thing that I put on there is that the ladies learned that they don't always have to lift heavy to improve their performance. And so they're learning that speed of the bar plays a factor, and that speed and velocity directly correlates to strength. And so if we can train in the appropriate zones at the appropriate time, you're going to get stronger. And they learned that. So that was nice, because now when I'm in that 75% range, then they're training with intent because they know, okay, coach isn't trying to bury me today, but I've got to hit these goals. And if I hit these goals, then I'm going to get stronger, which is what coach wants. I'm going to run faster. I'm going to jump higher. My performance is going to improve. So yeah, that in a nutshell was our summer. And I tried to put as much information in there. Sometimes I think I put too much, but if there's anybody who has a specific question on something I covered or something I didn't cover that I forgot to put in here, please, let's open this up, because I really like conversation.
Awesome. Thanks very much, Jen. Yeah, just a really nice insight into, it's nice when you kind of get that intimate look into what's actually being done with a single team, and kind of hearing what's being done kind of week on week, and obviously the results from it too. So it was really, really cool. We have a couple of questions, so I'll just kind of start from top to bottom. And like Jen mentioned, if anybody does have questions, just type them into the Q&A section and we'll get to them. So the first one is, when you were sharing the results slides, can you talk a little bit more about your process in using the counter movement jump for tracking weekly readiness?
Yeah. What we did is I built it into the workout. So after our Olympic lifts, then they had to give me 3 jumps. That was one thing, again, that was nice with Perch, is that I just programmed it right into the planning section of the dashboard. I plugged in what their sets and reps would be for their clean. And then immediately after that, it switched exercises and went to the counter movement jump. And they knew that it meant hands on hips, and I needed a max effort jump. And it was funny because when there was one day, one of the kids, she went to do her first jump, and all I heard, she's like, Coach Jen. I was like, yes. And she's on the other side of the weight room, so she had to scream. And she goes, I think this camera's broken. This isn't right. And I was like, okay, why do you think the camera's broken? And so when she did her jump, she's typically in the high 2.0. You know, she's like a 2.4 on her velocity. That's average where she is. But this time she had dropped well below two. She was at like a 1.8, 1.9, something like that. She's like, this is broken. And I said, no, it's not broken. I said, all it's telling me is that your legs are a little fatigued today. I said, we had a hard practice yesterday. And I said, and then you just did your cleans. Now your cleans weren't super heavy. It was just more to get the nervous system going because today was your dynamic day. But that's all it's telling me. And so it was just funny because they really do pay attention to what's on that iPad. And she was mad that she wasn't getting her normal. And so that was a teaching moment for the team. I pulled them all together and we talked about fatigue and we talked about recovery. And you guys got to make sure that you're getting in the cold tub or you're doing your Normatec boots or you're going over and getting cryo, getting massage, stretching like you need to do. Like all of this stuff plays a factor into your recovery. So it was nice that I had that 10 minutes, well, maybe not 10, but 5 minute break in the workout where I could bring them together. And it was a teaching moment on recovery and how fatigue plays a factor in how they jump. So I hope that answers your question.
Cool. Thanks, Jen. Yeah, it's a really nice part of all these different kind of feedback mechanisms where it's not just the communication with like the athlete that you improve, but also that kind of interdepartmental kind of communication as well, right? It makes it easier to relay things to coaches, to physios or ATs or, you know, whichever support staff are kind of involved. So yeah, that's a nice link to kind of what you outlined with the CMJ reporting and stuff too. So thanks for that. Um, the next question then is on the dashboard feature. Yeah, on the dashboard itself. So it could be either on the app side of things or the online software. What are your favorite features and what do you look at the most consistently when like when looking at those features?
Ooh, favorite feature. I mean, there's so many. Um, but my go-to when I log in first. So I'll pull up my roster and go back and look at all of their individual sets and reps first, just to make sure that nobody made a mistake. Because, you know, it is common for kids to type in the wrong weight. So I'll double check all their sets and reps to make sure that all of their weight was recorded correctly. Because we did have an instance when we were early on in the program, using the program. I forgot to do the setting so that everything was inputted in kilos because that's what we have in our weight room is kilos. And so when this one young lady logged in, she was putting in what she thought kilos, but it on the other end, when I looked at it, it came out pounds. And I was like, there's no way she lifted all that. So, anyways, I just made it a habit of always going back and checking to see that their weights were correct. And then what I'll do from there is I go look at if it was a squat day, I look at their force velocity curve because there's a really nice indicator up there that gives you, I'll just say it gives you pluses or minuses on whether they're above their one estimated 1 RM or below their estimated 1 RM. So I'll always look there to make sure that they're either on track with what I'm estimating their 1 RM to be. And if there's an instance where someone's falling below, then I go back and I'm like, okay, what's going on in their lifts? How much are they doing? You know, is this someone who is maybe injured and we backed their load on purpose? So that instant feedback there helps me out a ton. And something that I dabbled with our sports sci guy here was the what do you call it? It's not the force velocity curve, but if you're looking at Olympic lifts, you have another power curve. Is that what you guys call it?
Yeah, you got the power load curve.
Yes, the power load curve. I started paying attention to that. And so what we did was I already mentioned that we test a mid thigh pull, ISO mid thigh pull. And so I had him, he took all of the data from the Olympic list. We took one young lady and he took all of her data. And then he took all of her data from the ISO mid thigh pull. And my question to him was why I asked him to do this project was this young lady, she struggles with the mid thigh pull and her technique. I don't know why it's so difficult for her, but she is always in a bad position. She's always up on her toes instead of her feet flat on the ground, and it's just a chore. So I'm always put a little asterisk beside her mid thigh pull because I'm not 100% sure that it's that accurate. So I asked him to take her data from Perch and see if we could come up with if there was validity between the two, um, and which one I should pay attention more to track her, instead of doing a mid thigh test with her because she struggles so much with it. Um, and so, bottom line, there wasn't a correlation between the two, but what we did come up with was that the power curve in Perch might be better for her to track on because it would correlate more to basketball and how long she can sustain um her output, I guess, on the basketball court. So we're in the middle of still tracking on that. So I'll let you know how it comes out. But I those are the three areas that I go to. I first look at make sure that there's no mistakes in their weight that they inputted. Then I go look at their force velocity curve and see if it's changed at all from week to week. And then I'll go look at that, the power curve and kind of do the same thing just to see where the outliers are and am I training in the right area for that particular athlete. It just allows me to individualize things even more, because everybody wants to have an individualized program. They all want to get better. So this just allows me just to, take these three kids and say, hey, we really need to hone in on this top end speed. So we're going to change your program and do this. Or we really need to hone in on your quickness and how you're getting up and down or getting off the floor when you go up for a rebound or whatever. So we're going to focus in on your starting strength because, we want that one step quickness just a little bit faster. So yeah, I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Jen. No, that makes a lot of sense. So, the next question. So you mentioned one of the features, right? So the load velocity curve that we have in the system. And earlier on in the presentation, you talked about obviously individualizing training a lot and really taking into account things like training age or training history. So on the load velocity curve itself, do you adjust the terminal velocity for different exercises or for different individuals, based on training age or training history, or do you kind of keep it at the default setting, which is usually, kind of taken from the research kind of minimal velocities for given lifts?
Yeah,
Like, how do you play around with that?
yeah, 100%. Um, and to I haven't adjusted it on any of them yet. I've adjusted it on my own training just because I wanted to see how the numbers would fluctuate. But with them, it's been pretty spot on to where I haven't had to adjust it. Um, Now for myself, and I think I think for myself, because I have a higher training age and I have a, a closer 1RM, true 1RM, then I felt like I should adjust it a little bit for myself. But for them, I haven't had to adjust it at all. It's been pretty spot on.
Cool. Yeah, and you've still seen the improvements, obviously, even with
Yeah,
using that kind of default setting and stuff. Okay.
yeah.
No, that's cool. On the slides themselves, you also showed how you use Perch for the programming. So, like in the system, we call it Plan.
Yep.
Workout templates and obviously like multi-week programming.
Yep.
How do you use it? To schedule things, or do you only use it, or do you also use things like workout cards and manual kind of tracking as well?
Okay, so I'm still in the stage where I'm figuring out which is the best way. So we also have Bridge here where I put all of my programming in. Um, I started using Bridge, got to be 10, 15 years ago, because when they first started up, I was one of the first people to sign up. And so I still put all my programming in Bridge, but the lifts that I'm going to track on, so I don't track on everything. I'm not that person. I think the main lifts that I need to track on are our squats and squat variations and our Olympic lifts and Olympic lift variations. So those are the only lifts that I program into Perch. Um, and so what I had my intern do over the summer is, because I had everything built out in Bridge already, every Sunday she would go into Perch and program out the week's lifts in there and then assign it to the ladies so that when they came in, it was already assigned to their name. I know it's an extra step because it makes more work and more programming. You've already programmed it. Why are you programming it twice? Um, I don't know. I haven't figured out the best way to do it yet. When I like having everything in one place. But because we don't do all of the accessory lifts in Perch, I haven't felt like I would program everything in there as of yet. But it's probably coming just because the ladies are toggling back and forth. So the first time around, what I did is I told my intern, okay, the Olympic lifts and whatever I wanted to track on, I said, hey, go program this in Perch. Put in all of their 1RMs because there's a place where you can put in everybody's 1RMs, and then put the percentages so that when they come in, their weight would pop up instead of them having to toggle back and forth and see what percentage, they're supposed to be working at. So we put all their 1RMs in there. And then she just plugged in their percentages for the lifts and the sets and reps. So that's super simple. And the ladies loved it. They said, Coach, this is so much easier. We don't have to guess on what our weight is. It tells us what to do. So that was the first wave that I did. And then now I'm in this second wave where we talked about individualization. I'm finding now that I don't like the percentages, using the percentages in Perch just because of the way it rounds up or rounds down. So now what my intern does is she still programs it out, but ahead of time she puts in the weight that I want them training at. Um, so that they're actually at the load that I want instead of the percentage, because sometimes the percentage was off depending on whether the program rounded up or rounded down. So we were still adjusting weight in the workout. But the programming template, it's been super easy. I've already have a bunch of templates saved in there. Like our test day template, I've got that saved in there. So, anytime we test, it's just a plug and play. And the kids just follow right through. And so, yeah, I'm building quite a library in Perch on workouts and templates.
Cool. Yeah, thanks for outlining that, Jen. And I guess this might even be news to you. Like we're also coming out with like a mobile function or a feature where, you can obviously use your phone like in the gym for things as well, but also then to do like remote kind of program access and stuff as well. So
Yes.
we're probably a small number of weeks away from that, but thought I'd float that in here as well. And make you aware of it too in case you hadn't
Yeah.
heard about it. So
Yeah.
yeah. So cool. So we're down to the last question, and I guess this one's just a bit of a broad one, really. So, you kind of outlined how you approach things this summer. Like, what's kind of next? Like, where do you see the evolution of the program kind of moving towards? Yeah, just maybe giving us a bit of a high level overview of that.
Well, we are in our, it's so funny because basketball is year round now. So it's hard to, when someone says, are you in the preseason? What does the preseason constitute anymore anyway? So what I do is I split it up between 8 hours and 20 hours, and then your preseason games, and then your conference schedule. And then the summer is your off season. So we just finished our 8 hour segment. And what that means is, for those of you that don't know, in the off season, you're allowed 8 hours a week coaching basketball and strength and conditioning. So we split it up 4 and 4. And we just finished it. That was, we started August the 23rd, 25th, something like that. And then last Friday, we just finished it. So that phase, it was pretty short. So that phase is more of a typical AA phase because they just came back from being at home for 2 weeks. And so I need to get them back accustomed to lifting. We were conditioning in the morning a couple times a week, and then they had some individual work. So it's just more your typical AA phase. And then yesterday we transitioned into our 20 hours. So this is another segment of time where we get 20 hours a week, but we're not playing games yet. So now we are full blown practice. Yesterday we practiced for like 2.5 hours, and then they had lift in the morning. So we're lifting 3 days a week. Right now, um, I'm transitioning a little bit. I said I can't do a true max effort with them because of their training age, but I'm switching to, because I think we did a really solid job on our squats, but because and where we ended up, but because our volume in practice is going so it is going up a lot, I'm switching to more of loaded single legs and split squats. Um, and this is going to be a first for me because I've never tracked loaded split squats, but I want to because I really feel this is going to give me some valuable insight on left right dominance, um, which again is going to, long term reduce some injuries. Um, so that's kind of where I am right now. We just started that yesterday. So reach out to me again at let's see, our first game is October 28th, 29th, something like that. So at the end of October, I'm gonna send you guys an email, let you know how that played out.
Awesome. No, that's great, Jen. Thanks very much for that. So that sounds good. So yeah, so that's all we've got for the questions. So yeah, just wanted to say thank you so much again for your time, Jen. Giving this presentation, putting it together, and obviously giving us an insight into the program that you run with the girls. So yeah, so we're looking forward to seeing everybody for the next webinar. Thank you all for attending, and yeah, wishing you a great day. And Jen, have a great start to the new season.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Right. No worries. Catch you soon. Thanks.
Yep.